loud. Okay, I don't know if we all heard that, but apparently this meeting is now being recorded. So let's go ahead and begin. Welcome to today's West Coast virtual event. We are lucky to have with us today 3 talented people from the University of Arizona who are going to present today's topic, which is a seamless events experience. We are also supported today by one of our excellent partner companies, Blackthorne, who is joining us as well, and give them a chance to introduce themselves in a couple slides. These West Coast events typically run about once a month is usually how often I try to have these. Our next event is scheduled for January 11th at 10 o'clock Pacific time, 11 o'clock Mountain time, when we will be hosting another customer spotlight, this time coming from National University. And they will be, in fact, Jake, who is at National University, is on this webinar. So Jake, feel free to say hi to everybody. But Jake will be covering a marketing case study in digital transformation, and I will be sending out invites for that event probably when it gets a little bit closer to it.
Yeah, hi everybody. Thanks so much for having me. Hopefully you guys can attend that one. It's been a great experience. So we'll be sharing our journey of back in 2018 when we started to partner with John and Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and we onboarded Marketing Cloud and then Salesforce CRM for one of our partners called North Central University. And now we'll also kind of share the current work we're doing with National University as well as future initiatives. So looking forward to sharing that.
Thank you, Jake. Yes, we're excited about that one as well. So the idea behind these events is just to bring people together around common themes, things that I oftentimes hear. I pretty much cover the entire West Coast for Salesforce marketing, engagement, communication. And so when I hear common themes being brought up, I usually try to plan an event around them because it seems like something people care about. So, ultimately trying to build a community. And right now, across the West, in case anyone cares, there are 45 people using Marketing Cloud, 45 different instances, and there's about 43 instances of Pardot last time I checked. So any of you who are users of the platform and have an interesting case study to share or a use case that you think other people might be interested in hearing about, feel free to fill out a customer spotlight application form. It's not very long, it's not very difficult, but just ask some basic questions about what you'd like to talk about. Those forms come directly to me, and then I'll reach out and we'll have a conversation. I will put a link to the form in the chat window once I'm done speaking here. And I included in a lot of my follow-ups as well.
To my head, his name is Ian. Ian McConnell, his name. Ian was the one that came to
he is.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes, I need to ask because I know him, and I was like, oh.
Hey, Dwayne.
But Ian.
Let me see here.
She said you didn't need anything when you wanted to come by.
I will mute Dwayne real quick. All right. Sorry about that. And we'll continue. Okay, this is our famous forward-looking statement slide, which is essentially our verbose and legal way of saying, please don't make any purchasing decisions based on products that are not yet available today. I don't believe anything we're going to talk about today are things that are not available, but just in case, be aware. And of course, with any Salesforce presentation, I always want to say thank you to all of you. I understand even taking time out of your day today is an hour out of your time invested in learning more about what we're going to talk about, and ultimately being customers of ours. For those of you who are, we certainly appreciate it. We do truly believe that your success is our success, and at .org we are committed to doing well by doing good. And also, one of the things that I really like about working at .org is the opportunity to give back to our community. So I always put a little plug in for Big Brothers Big Sisters, as that's the organization that I am involved with. And if anyone ever has any questions about that, feel free to let me know. All right, let's get into the fun part of today with the more about where we're headed with this presentation. So to introduce very briefly here who is going to be a part of the call today, we have Kate from the University of Arizona and Kaylin and Mario as well. Kate's going to give an overview of essentially the background of U of A, like what the whole idea behind trying to improve events was, the transformation that took place, and ultimately where they are today. And Kaylin and Mario are going to be leading live demonstrations of the experience, both from the organizational aspect, like the organizational user aspect, as well as the attendee or prospective attendee aspect. And we also have Blackthorne on the call today. I believe Matt, Josh, and Dylan are all here, possibly others. And they'll be available. They're going to do a little intro into Blackthorne and how Blackthorne fits into this whole conversation. I'm going to turn it over to them next, actually. And they'll ultimately be available if you have questions in the chat window. And I'll be monitoring the chat window too as soon as I'm done talking. So if you have questions that are specific to like the product side of this, feel free to put those in the chat window and we'll tackle those as we go. So why are we doing this particular event today? Stems from really like what oftentimes I hear. My favorite question is the first one on the top left, which is, does Salesforce do events? And I'm always like, well, let's talk about that. That could mean a lot of things. So the short answer is yes, but ultimately we want to figure out exactly what that means to you. But I also hear a lot more specific feedback, such as like, yeah, we don't really have a way to automate our communication about our events, and everything we do is tracked in the spreadsheet, and we have to upload things, and we have to send out an email. It might be manual, a lot of manual processes. And ultimately, all of those things feed into the last bullet point that people often tell me, which is it's really challenging to scale these events across multiple groups and teams. Like, how do we, like, let's say one group on campus is doing this really well. How do we make this accessible for multiple groups on campus? So not only is the university branding of our events consistent, but the experiences as well. Okay, so with that, I'm going to formally introduce the agenda. Oops, I might have skipped one slide here, which is going to be just a quick introduction with Blackthorne first, just so everyone can fully understand their role in the events management experience. And then kick it over to Kate for the overview, and then we'll move into the lab demonstration. All right, so with that, Matt, I will continue to drive, but go ahead and you can begin introducing people to who Blackthorne is.
Awesome, cool. Well, thank you very much for the intro, and thanks everybody for attending. I really appreciate it. It's great to see some familiar faces on here, and for those of you whom we haven't had a chance to meet before, great to meet you for the first time, and I hope it's the first of many times. So Blackthorne is Salesforce native events, payments, donations, compliance, and now SMS, as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen, all on Salesforce. Our primary verticals that we work with are higher education and non-for-profits, which is why we're here. We partnered with University of Arizona. We partner with Salesforce, a number of you on the call, and we're really excited to help support University of Arizona as they are showcasing what they've done with an end-to-end engagement experience today. We were founded in 2015. We went from about 8 to 80 staff. We got 7 apps, all sorts of great stuff in there. And of course, everything we do is all in one place with over 500 customers and 5-star reviews across the board, which we absolutely love. Everything that we do is designed to get you to use Salesforce proactively for your events management needs. That's really the end all and be all of it. Getting event managers, marketing managers, persons who are doing recruiting events, alumni events to get comfortable using Salesforce as their event management tool. So that all of that data is in one place and you can utilize it for any number of automated processes, student success and satisfaction scores, sentiment analysis, and whatever else that you happen to be doing with that data. So why don't we go to the next slide? Just to illustrate what we do and how we do it. This is traditionally the old school way of looking at events in Salesforce. Everything you see on that left-hand side, and yes, I'm calling out Cvent and Eventbrite here, they try to handle all of the events, data, and functional needs that you're going to need. So registration, payments, records, surveys, and even some of the stuff that Salesforce provides, like emails, contact records, reporting, triggers, and workflows. But all of that data then has to be pushed into Salesforce, and it can be pushed by API if, well, they have a supported connector. Some do, some don't. Or oftentimes what we're seeing is export to Excel and manual upload. This takes time, there's data loss, and at the end of the day, it makes your lives harder, and it makes your students' lives harder. And that's what we're trying to prevent. So if we can go over to one more slide. Let's take all those same features that we were looking at before, all those gap features and all those function ones. We're going to put it all into Salesforce, along with all the clouds, all the tools that you're using, as well as the great events management tools that you're going to need, like registration, surveys, event records, web pages, a portal. We're going to put all of that into Salesforce. So if you're using EDA, you can connect who's attended a open day, who has put in their application to attend the university, and how successful are they going to be based upon their number of touch points that you have with them throughout that recruitment, admission, success process. Are they likely to continue on to graduate programs, certificate programs? You can do all of this using events data to help enrich that student profile because it's all in one place. And if you keep clicking there for me, John, it's all on one platform and it's all in Salesforce. So that better features, centralized data, and better configurations. All right, last slide, I promise. And this, I think, is required in every Salesforce presentation and webinar, but we call it a NASCAR slide. And it's a cross section of a number of universities and colleges that we work with around the globe. It is by no means an exhaustive list, but you may notice sort of up and on the right-hand side, the University of Arizona is right there, bear down. But we've got a few other ones on here, and I think on the call, so we've got a few people representing USC Marshall. They're there on the right-hand column, Pepperdine towards the left, Northern Illinois, University of Maryland, and across the board. So, and even I think I saw some folks signed on from San Diego State. Well, your in-city rivals there, UCSD, they're already using us along with Pardot and a few other tools. So I show this to say we love higher ed. Most of us who work at the company actually at one point in time used to work in higher ed. We speak the language. We love supporting and working in service to that industry to help you enable students and enable the university and college success cycle that you're on. And so with that, a great example of an organization doing really, really cool work with engagement is University of Arizona. So Kate, I think I'm throwing it over to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Matt. And thank you, John, for having us and giving us the opportunity to talk to you all about some of the work that we've implemented using Blackthorne and Marketing Cloud. So in terms of the question, why implement an enterprise events tool? And it's interesting, John, some of your slides in the beginning, and Matt, some of your slides actually touched on this. So just my first point, there was an immense amount of discovery involved in our approach. So, we have colleagues here on our team inside the University of Arizona that do that pre-discovery work, working with users and focus groups on campus to identify this crucial need for an enterprise tool. So, that was a bit of work that did happen on our end before we decided to go down this road. So just it was good that we did that because we had a lot of foundational knowledge walking into the implementation, and it really helped inform how we would connect both products, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. Matt, to your point, we saw this need of being able to aggregate some of the tools that users were using and leverage the CRM benefits. So, we heard from users, they were using Eventbrite or Cvent to send event invitations, and then they were using MailChimp, to collect registration, but they were using MailChimp to send invitations, and they were uploading a list from another university system. They were using Google Forms to collect or Qualtrics to collect information about registration or answer questions. So tools were spread so far. And yeah, those were, to your point, Matt, it was painful for users. It was expensive. So that really put us further down the road and saying, yes, we are going to move forward. My colleague, Cindy, who's on this call as well with us. Hi, Cindy. So we have a great partnership with our central marketing department here at the university. And almost in tandem, Cindy was actually, previous to her current role, she was rolling out Marketing Cloud to groups on campus. And, Marketing Cloud, we have some great templates that we've created that are branded, that are styled. Because we also saw a common theme of units on our campus really just, taking their branding and styling into their own hands. So we knew that that was a top issue that we had to address as well. So we took all of this into consideration. We put together an RFP and we said, okay, we interviewed several providers, and we chose Blackthorne because of their native Salesforce integration and the robust functionality. I do want to emphasize that what you're going to see today when I pass it over to Mario and Kalen is basically 10% of what Blackthorne can provide. So, we're using very little. We intend to use more. It's a complex and robust product. So I just wanted to put that out there. And it's ironic that at the point we started to develop this and really start working very closely with Blackthorne, COVID hit, and we were developing an events tool. And it was like, how do we get in a headspace where there are no in-person events? Everything is virtual. So like, this was like such an important consideration that we worked in tandem with Blackthorne on, hey, how do we like deliver a solution that takes into account virtual and hybrid events? And then it will also like track capacity for those in-person events, because that was a huge thing. So it really became having all of these tools in one place was so important, because users did need to collect questions from people about, COVID protocols, all of the things that resulted as, COVID was hitting us. Blackthorne elegantly solved for a lot of it. So it was awesome to work through the irony of implementing this during that time. And even now, it's just, we're still in it, not as severe, but that's a little bit of our history. So we can move to the next slide and talk a little bit about, based on our discovery, like what were our goals during this process? So we worked and we talked to so many different users, and we found at the University of Arizona that we have some really sophisticated marketers and event organizers. They have access to a lot of resources, graphic designers, web designers. They have access to images and just a lot of things. They're able to put together an awesome looking event page and an awesome looking invitation and email journey. Some people at the University of Arizona that plan events don't have all of that access to those resources. So we wanted this tool to appeal to sophisticated folks, beginners, and people without access to a lot of resources. We wanted diverse features consolidated into one tool. Talked about some of those other tools that people were using, and it just, was painful and expensive. So we wanted to offer that time saving and efficiency for users. We also wanted to give attendees an end-to-end registration and communication experience with appropriate branding. So not only are you having this awesome styled experience when you register as an attendee and you're feeling like, yes, this is the University of Arizona brand, I want to come to this event. It's, it feels good, it feels real. You're also getting some automated communication that's also branded and styled to assure you that, yes, this event, one, it's legitimate. Two, it's affiliated with the university. It's giving you that, oh, sorry, my phone's ringing. It's giving you that confidence. So that was a big consideration in working with central branding as well. And then lastly, if I'm an event organizer, give me that sophisticated event level reporting and metrics. So one, I can confirm who's coming to my event. I can make the plans. I can book the right space. I can order more food if I need it. I can create another ticket for VIPs if I figure out a group's flying in from somewhere and I need to accommodate them. Just this sophisticated reporting that also allows me to report up to different governance groups on our campus. And great news, all that reporting is in a single format. So if that governance group wants to extrapolate it and put together some analytics and metrics for a focus group at the university to look at, let's say, audience engagement or event attendance across the student body, we can do that. And it's not a complete headache. They're not aggregating several different Excel spreadsheets and columns and rows and all these things. It's coming in consistently and standardized. I'm just making sure I'm checking everything off the box. I think you'll see a little bit more about the demo and reporting, the reporting and metrics in our demo, but being able as an event organizer to track even like just your invitation email performance inside Salesforce. Like, oh, no one opened my invitation email. Maybe I should send a reminder to register so people, maybe I should actually frame that up a little bit differently so more people open it. So, something to consider. So these were all key goals, which I will report. I think we accomplished, and we accomplished well. We're experiencing some really great adoption among users, and we work in Agile, so we just continue to iterate on this tool. I should preface the next slide with just saying that we have really embarked only on free events at this point in time. And we're looking to onboard folks whose main use case is free events, and we will be looking to implement paid events likely, I would say 2022. I'm going to keep it very general. So let's go ahead and move to the next slide. So in terms of leveraging connectivity between Marketing Cloud, campaigns, and events, because that's really what Kaylin and Mario are going to show you. Why did we make this decision to do this? I want to just talk through a couple of points before I hand it over to them. The curated and branded registration email journey was very important to us. Being able to style that journey and control the styling and branding on that journey was vital. And I think also recognizing that users of Trellis events, so users of the Blackthorne events tool, did not need Marketing Cloud licenses in order to achieve this was critical for us. So we realized that, and we said we're going to move forward down that path. So that was one of our reasoning. And in terms of largely the structure of our subscription center, and the relationship between event organizers and marketers on campus, we make use of the parent-child campaign structure inside Salesforce with respect to campaigns and Marketing Cloud. And we wanted to be able to integrate events appropriately into that structure for our users on campus that collaborate with respect to communications as well as events. So I'll just give an example. I am a marketer at the College of Science at the University of Arizona, and I also work with an event organizer or maybe a coordinator inside the College of Science. We create a parent campaign that's news and events for students. So a student could go to their subscription center and actually opt out of that campaign, or subscribe to that campaign in the event they wanted to receive, I'm just going to call it emails or messages regarding events or news at the College of Science. So being able to have that, that hierarchy in our subscription center was very important to us. Also, in terms of audience saturation, and I know, Cindy, I'm sure you'll like this one. We opted for this approach because the use of campaigns would really allow us to measure our audience saturation in Marketing Cloud and events using the campaign object. That was important to us to be able to show governance groups on campus, the percentage of emails students are getting and opening and acting upon, whether it's students, whether it's employees, community members, to give this 360 view using the campaign object was very important to us. Lastly, this approach provided a pathway for sophisticated enhancements in Marketing Cloud. So what you're going to see, and this is really talking to our future goals in the product, what you're going to see next from Mario and Kaylin really talks through what we've done thus far. What we're looking to do in the future is actually provide a way for sophisticated marketers to say, you know what, I really love events, I want to use it, but I'm so sophisticated. And I have so many resources that I want to create my own email journey and trigger it based on different criteria inside events. So, we have users that, want to customize their invitation. They want to build it. They want to put their own photos in it, and they want to use certain images and text and all the things and create call to action buttons. And we want to support that experience. So this would involve basically sharing some of what we've built inside events down into Marketing Cloud, so marketers can use that information to build a more customized experience for customized journey for attendees or prospective attendees. So that's a little bit about what we've done. And I do just want to caveat all of this with just a thank you to Mario and Kalen and the other team members that work at the University of Arizona that have supported our development in this space. This by no means is a 3-person operation. I would stress to anyone listening on this call that there have been just several folks involved in this effort, Salesforce admins, UX professionals, marketing professionals, event organizers. We have a wonderful stakeholder group representative of colleges and other groups on campus that serve various populations. So it is an effort that that we took on very in a collaborative way, and so I just have to say that and give those proper groups the recognition that they deserve. So without further ado, I'm sure you all want to see what we've done. So I'll pass it over to I think Matt first, and then you'll hear from Kalen and Mario.
Yeah, so really, we just wanted to incorporate this slide just to show a summary of all the great information that Kate just provided. So really the use case was going across campus, making sure that all that siloed data from all the different options that were available to University of Arizona were then tied together into a single engagement solution that had an e-marketing component that had the ability to take that sort of I just realized my camera was off when I was talking. To take that sort of engagement to the next step. So, there was a lot of different tools being used, basic event apps, missing important attendee data, and it all got put together into a holistic solution by moving it to Salesforce. One tool to rule them all, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan. Less time spent, less data loss, and it allowed them to have a holistic view of the attendees, map that to the students that they were engaging with, and really start looking at student success as a holistic viewpoint and measure their impact across the university. So back over to UAZ.
All right, Kalen, we are going to kick it to you to start the live demo. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let me know if you are able to share yours.
Sure, let me take a look. Do you guys see Salesforce currently?
I see.
Perfect. Yeah, so I'm Kalen, and Mario and I will be doing sort of a split persona demonstration of the events tool and how it relates to Marketing Cloud, and I will be playing the persona of an event organizer, and Mario will be showing the perspective of a potential attendee. So prior to this demo, I've already created an event record and set it up and got it published, so you guys didn't have to watch me create records for a bunch of time. So we have our event record and our tickets, and I've also prepared a list of attendees that I want to invite. And that could be done from a contact report, it could be done from a user file upload, file list upload of the campaign or the attendees via campaign, or it could be done manually. So we have our list of attendees and our event is completely set up and we are ready to start inviting people. So we've added this email setup tab, and this is really a screen flow that will help the event organizers both customize and personalize their emails and also sort of trigger the initial journey of sending invitation emails. So I will go through a couple of scenarios here. It's pretty involved, so I won't go too in depth. I'll try to keep it high level. But as an event organizer, I'm ready to send my invitation email. So first, I would like to review my invitation email, make sure it has the content that I would like, and we're ready to send. So we've selected the invitation email. As Kate was talking about earlier, we do have a parent campaign that you would set, and this will respect opt-outs at the parent campaign level. So if someone is unsubscribed from the parent campaign, they will not receive the invitation. And then we have a couple of host fields, and this is just a level of customization for the event organizer. You can either manually say who you are that's hosting the event. Like I'm from the Department of Basic Medical Sciences, and that's who's hosting the event. Or if you're more sophisticated and have a branded logo, you can enter the URL here as well. And then the image would be used. So that all looks great. Let's go ahead and update our email message. And the next screen is another layer of customization here. And the host logo URL and the host get pulled in from the previous screen. And then we get into the option of how we would like our attendees to be addressed. So we can either use informal first, informal full, or formal full. And really it just depends on how the event would like to be presented, how formal it is, things like that. And then finally, we have our email message body, and this is the content of the email, so the meat and potatoes, right? So we defaulted to the description of the event, but they can completely override it. And really whatever content they put into this field will be presented in that invitation email. And Mario will show that in a second here. So that looks great. I will go ahead and click next. So now I have reviewed my invitation email and it looks fantastic and I'm ready to send. We have a little button here where they can send an invitation email. And we give a little warning saying by pressing next, you will be sending an invitation email just in case it's not clear enough. And let's go ahead and do that. So we're going to send our invitation email. We give them another notice saying that the email is going to be sent from automated system. And then depending on the size of your event, the emails may be sent out in batches to avoid hitting limits and timeouts and stuff like that. So it's just like that. Our invitation email has been sent. If we go to our attendee list, we'll see that all of our attendees have been moved to invited and the emails will be on the way. If we go back into the email setup tab, we'll notice that the invitation option went away because we no longer have any attendees who are waiting for invitation emails and they've all been invited. But we do have the option to send a reminder to register. And that's just something we've built in case you plan an event months ahead of time and you just don't quite have the engagement you'd like a week before the event, you want to send out a reminder to register. So that's the functionality there. And another thing worth mentioning is that you don't have to send out an invitation email. So Blackthorne has a event URL. And if you would rather host your event from a web page, or you have some location where you can host the URL and have people register for open registration, you can totally do that. But if your event is something that you would like to be on an invitation basis, it's just as easy as that. So I believe that's all I have for now. And I'm going to pass it over to Mario to show the attendee perspective of what the emails look like and what the registration process feels like.
Hey, Kellen, I think there's a
Yeah.
question in the chat. Maybe
Oh, yeah.
it just felt like it was timely if you wanted to. It says from Dwayne, what system are you using to send the invitation? Salesforce Marketing Cloud or Blackthorne provided email system?
That's a great question. So we are using Marketing Cloud for the emails, and what it really is on the technical side is this flow just updates the registration status of the attendee, and then we have a Marketing Cloud journey that is using Salesforce data as the entry source. And Marketing Cloud is basically checking for attendees. When they get updated to invited, they get injected into that invitation journey. It's probably a good place to pause if there are any other questions on what we've shown so far. How easy is it to insert branding into the email? That's a great question for Mario, and I think that's a good segue for me to pass it over to him.
Thanks, Galen. So how easy? Well, that really depends on your experience with Marketing Cloud and some of the templates. But for us, we have a great team. And if you're familiar with building emails, just the HTML pieces, it's pretty easy. And this example that you're looking at is the email that we built, this custom template, which incorporates all the branding that we try to stay consistent with in all of our emails that are sent through for the university. And we use some AMP script to do some queries and to pull in some of that data coming from Salesforce, and basically kind of manipulating some of the data, like formatting dates and those types of things. And it also pulls that the entry source from Journey that Kaylin kind of showed. And in this case here, some of the logic you may remember Kaylin showed that you can put a host image and the host name. So that's what you see here at the top. So our event planners kind of pointed out that there may or may not be some cases where they need to use a logo. So these are both optional. They can choose one or the other or both in this kind of example. But yeah, so just I'll give you a quick overview here of the email. One of the things, in case it wasn't obvious, a lot of students, staff, they receive a lot of email coming from the university, and those are usually really consistent with our branding. So in this case, it's the red bar at the top, and you may or may not have a logo following it right after. But if you kind of imagine in a day, there's especially maybe staff and things, newsletters and things that you're signed up for, and a lot of communication, you get a lot of emails. And so in the case of an event, this could be important information that people need to come back to. It's very common for our users to receive lots of email, know that they receive some sort of email and have to go try to find it. So it was important for us to make it easy in the subject line to find, and also when you pull up the email, basically get to that important information, which is at the very top, tells you who is sending this, what is it, and when is it, in this case here. And this blue area is probably it's the piece I'll show in a second here, that this could change quite a bit depending on if it's an in-person event or if it's a hybrid and there's online options, if they need to RSVP. Lots of other little pieces kind of go into this area, but from our perspective, those are things that sometimes get lost in an email when you have people who are not, experts in, designing emails or user interface, or any kind of thing like that. So they just want something they can just plug in and get out the door, really. So what we wanted to do is keep a consistent and basically easy to find way. And that's what this top portion of this email is doing. And then still provide a way for our event planners to put in, their touch, their pieces. In this case, they have an image that they want to kind of use along with their content. And down below, as Kaylin kind of showed, they have kind of a rich text area where they can just put in all the details about an event, who's presenting, et cetera, et cetera. And they can choose to put as much or as little information as they want in this section here. And then the user who receives the email there's a separate call to action down below where they can get event details. And as you noticed at the top, there is a call to action here, which really addresses the part where if they come back to the email, they don't have to scroll all the way to the bottom and try to find the button. They can find the details, and then if they've already kind of skimmed over the email, they know it exists, they can register at that point. This here shows kind of a date range. And as I mentioned, like there's other cases, which I'll just show a few here in the invitation. You can have a single day event that might be in person. And this RSVP message is important. Some event planners want to make sure that the people who are invited, they can RSVP by a certain date. That's not always the case, so those are optional. And in the case of let's say an online event, then they would just get, this is a single day, they see some times, and they can get a call to action here where they can register. And then kind of the kitchen sink approach where you have in-person, date range, and all these pieces basically turned on. This is the main piece. And so this call to action now is showing our register now. So if we did do that, that is using the attendee link that Kaylin mentioned, which is unique to the person who is invited. So when they click that, they come back to this page, which, as you notice, like it has this blue bar at the top that says, thank you, we're looking forward to meeting you. this is unique to this user. So at this point, you can register. And so I'll go ahead and register. Yeah, and so I am now registered. So what's going to happen now is the status will change on the back end, on the Salesforce side. So by me registering, my attendee record has now updated, and my status has changed from being invited to being registered. And once that happens, it triggers another event to send another email to send a confirmation. So what we have here now is a confirmation email. So very similar to our invitation email. It will show the basic information. And now you notice like the call to action changed a little bit. So instead of register, it just says view event details. So they can come back to that and click this link and get some of those details. It also just has a short message that says, you know, if you want to add to your calendar, they can click that link, and that essentially takes them to the same page that you saw. So if we go back here, I believe, I don't think I actually pulled that up, but so it would, yeah, I would show you, but I didn't have that ready to go, but it would have the option to add that to their calendar. And then if this is an in-person event, they have a QR code that they can scan. So that also displays the QR code in a really quick, easy way to pull up in case they, you know, get to the event and they need to pull it up quickly. They have a nice clear area where they need to, where they can just pull up that QR code. In the case of, I just showed this for demo purposes, but in the case of a hybrid event, some users who may not be that experienced with, you know, digital life, I guess, may be confused as to what this QR code is for and what do I need that for. So in those cases, we just mentioned that it's for the in-person events only. So in case they think they need that to check in online or something like that, just to make sure that we try to communicate to all of our audiences. And as you notice, this content down below now does not have that full description that you saw in this other email here, because once they're confirmed, they may have all those details. This is also optional to the event planners. They can choose to put all those details in there, but in many cases, they just want some present some different information after they've registered. And then the separate call to action here is to manage their registration. So if they did want to change, like cancel, like their RSVP or something like that, they can click that. And once they go to that page, they can cancel their registration. And that would also trigger another email, which would then, I don't have that to show, but you can imagine that would just be just a smaller, shorter version of this email that essentially says, you know, thanks, you've canceled your registration to this event. And so, yeah, that's essentially all the pieces. There's also there's some reminder emails that I think Kate mentioned. There's a reminder to attend. Those are things that are optional. And it's very similar to the way this looks, but those are all little triggers that we can kind of hook into and send off different communication to our users. So with that, I'll pass it back to Caitlin.
Cool. Let me go ahead and reshare here. All right, and just briefly wanted to show that, as we can see on the event record. Did I mute myself? Okay, good. On the event record, you can see that Mario is now registered. And so as registrations come in, these will automatically reflect the status. And if Mario were to, you know, go in and cancel or decline the event or whatever the case, that would reflect as well. And just real quick, I wanted to show an actual event that has occurred in our production environment, just to show the reporting that we have available. And so on this event, we can see that we've invited there's 700 something people, and we can see the amount of RSVPs. And then as Kate was talking about earlier, we can track invitation performance, looking at both opens and clicks for the emails. And the way we're tracking that is by looking at the individual email results that Marketing Cloud is writing back to Salesforce. So it's really cool. You can sort of see over time how your emails are performing. And then also you can see sort of a timeline of your registrations, and you can use that for tracking purposes or trying to create a better strategy around when to send out invitations, things like that. And so yeah, we just have a number of reports here that are really sort of useful, mostly specifically to our use cases, but you can really do a lot of really powerful reporting with the combination of the Salesforce data that we're creating and that Blackthorne's creating, and then also the Marketing Cloud data that's being injected back into Salesforce. So yeah, that's really the end of our demo of what we wanted to show in terms of an end-to-end, very high level view of what we have here. So I think we're going to open it up to Q&A for the remaining time. And then I also pulled up the Marketing Cloud side, and I can very briefly show what our journeys sort of look like if that's interesting to people.
All right, question from Chad. Is there any information regarding payment gateways for paid events?
Yeah, I can take that one. So that's a Blackthorne question. We connect to Stripe, Authorize.net, about 120 other gateways via connector tool, CashNet, and TouchNet. So all of those integrations do exist for us. Different payment gateways do have different functionality available to them. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more, we can follow up with you after the event and provide some additional information based on the gateway that you're using.
Cool. So I can real quick, I did pull up our journeys just so I can kind of show how we have this structured. So we have a series of journeys. These aren't all related to events. This is sort of our internal Trellis journey hub, but you can see the top, what is this, 5 of them are related to Blackthorne events. And I can just real quick talk through how they work. But we basically have one for each registration status that we're anticipating. So for the invitation journey, go ahead and open that up. So it all begins with the Salesforce data entry point, and really there's a lot of information here, but the really useful thing to know is what the journey is looking for is an attendee record has been updated to have a registration status of invited, and really the registration status is the driver. And, so we have the journey set up so that we're using the attendee instead of the contact, which is a little bit different than what a lot of people are probably used to. And the reason for that is that contact in the event space is not really unique, whereas an attendee is. So a contact can go to 100 different events, and they can be invited to one event while also registered to another and decline another. So the contact isn't really unique for events. So we use the attendee as sort of the unique person who's going through these journeys. And so we can see we have a decision split here. That's just for handling opt-outs. So basically if someone's unsubscribed, we go ahead and pass over them. But assuming that they are not opted out, we just have this really simple email action. And in this email action, that's where we have our branded curated template that the event organizers don't really need to manipulate or touch at all. It's very standard, and we use AMP script and the data from the Salesforce record to really customize the email. So yeah, that's an example of one of our journeys. And really the other journeys, similar idea. We're just using different registration statuses and performing different actions based on what should really happen to an attendee when they have this registration status. Is there any questions on that? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so got a few more minutes available for questions if anyone has anything else, questions or feedback. Yeah, if anyone else has any. Okay, I'm not seeing any in the chat window. So I think we'll wrap it up for today then. Following this, I will go ahead and send a follow-up email that will just contain a link to the recording. So if this, you know, is relevant for anybody else that you work with, you're welcome to share the link. And for anyone who had to drop off early, they can watch the rest. And I just want to say, you know, thanks to the presenters, University of Arizona. I want to thank Kaylin, Mario, and Kate, and I want to thank Blackthorne, Matt, and his team for being on this call as well. This was like a seamless event about seamless events. So I think it worked out pretty well. Appreciate everyone's time. If anyone does want to fill out or ever lead a customer spotlight application, I put that link in the chat window as well. Feel free to grab that real quick and fill that out. And otherwise, we'll see you on another one of these probably in the new year. Enjoy the holidays, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.